Here's some sample data for the gas laws lab. And so for this lab, you change the volume in the syringe and then you measure the pressure in kilopascals. So notice that when we did the experiment, we put everything on like 5, 9, 11, 13 mils. And then we added that 0.8 because there's some gas trapped in the syringe that we're not accounting for. So we're just going to add that on there. So that's where that 0.8 came from. So all I'm going to do, and most of this can be done in Excel, makes it a little bit easier. You can do it by hand. Eventually we will graph something, so it's much easier if it's already in Excel. So I'm going to highlight that, right click, and copy it. I'm going to paste it into an Excel template here. Great. Give myself a little more room. Unnecessary, but okay. So the first thing I want to do is change the volume from milliliters to liters, and there are 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. So I'm just going to take each one of these numbers and divide it by 1,000 to get to liters. So there's my first one, and I don't want to type that a million times, so I'm just going to highlight that cell, bring it over to the corner until I get that little black crossbar, and drag it all down. So that's going to now take this cell and divide it by 1,000, and so on and so forth. Great. These are some measured pressures that I found, and I'm going to convert them to PSI. There's a quick conversion factor that I'll write it out here and then I'll put it in here for you. So that conversion factor, just show that here, was one kilopascal is equal to 0.14538 psi. There's a bunch of ways to do that. You could take there's other relationships too you can find. There's a million different conversion factors to get from one to the other. This is in one step, and this makes it easy. So I'm going to start with my kilopascals, right? I'm going to have my 190.7 kilopascals, and I'm going to say, well, 1 kilopascal on the bottom, and then I want to convert to PSI on top. So I have 0.415038. I'm going to work all that out. I got like 27.65, something like that. Okay, so I'm going to do that in Excel now. I'm just going to take this number, I'm going to say equals this kilopascal, and I'm going to multiply that by the 0.145038, and I should get about the same number that I got over there. And now I will just highlight this, drag it down. Great. So those are my new pressures in PSI. This is just taking 1 over the volume in liters. So I'm just going to take 1 divided by the volume in liters. So 1 over a really small number gives me a bigger number. So now I'm at 172.41. That makes sense. And I'm going to drag that down. Okay, so now what I want to do is make a graph of pressure versus 1 over temperature, or sorry, 1 over volume. And so I'm going to I'm going to just show you what I'm graphing here and why. So I have my graph of pressure versus 1 over volume. I'm going to get a graph that kind of looks like that. Volume is the variable that we were changing. That's our independent variable, right? So that's why we're going to put that on the horizontal axis. This is the one that we're controlling. And then we're measuring the pressure. So this is the one that we're measuring. That's our dependent variable. The pressure depends on the volume. So the pressure is going to go on the vertical axis there, on our y-axis. So I want pressure versus 1 over volume. That's the graph I want to make. So I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do insert, a scatter graph like that. And when I just do that and I don't have anything highlighted, I get a blank graph. Great. Now I can plug in my my axes. So I right clicked on this blank graph, go to select data, and then add. And on my x-axis, what did I want there? I wanted 1 over volume on my x-axis. And on my y-axis, just deleted that, and I want the pressure. Great, so I get something that looks like this. This is Boyle's law, so I'm just going to change that title to Boyle's law. Awesome. And I want to make sure, I want to add some axes, so I just click on that little plus sign, add my axes over here. I had pressure, PSI, pounds per square inch, and then on the bottom here, I had 1 over volume. 1 divided by volume in 1 divided by liters. Those are my units, 1 over liters. So that's my graph. I'm going to left click on one of these just to highlight it, and then right click over here to add a trend line. And I want to display the equation on the chart. And then I think they ask you to record that somewhere on your data sheet. You're going to just copy and paste this graph onto your data sheet. So if I have to highlight it this way, I just left click on it. Now I right click, edit, copy, and then go back over to my template. I'm going to paste it here. I don't need that little SketchUp. I'll just paste, maybe. Sure, that looks legit. Good. And that's that, and I can delete whatever I had typed over there. And then that's part A. So does your graph show that P is proportional to 1 over V? This one does. As long as it's a straight line or about a straight line, then yeah, pressure versus volume, 1 over volume is proportional, and that's what we would expect because pressure and volume are inversely proportional. So pressure and 1 over volume should be directly proportional. So that just means if I increase one, the other one increases. So I'm going to get a graph that looks like that.